Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer by looking back at a really massive, almost historical claim. For years, literally years, data science was universally crowned the sexiest job of the 21st century, right? But just as everyone got comfortable with that, a brand new challenger stepped into the ring, completely vying for that exact title. Welcome to the explainer. Today we're going to clearly demystify this rapidly shifting tech landscape, and we'll figure out exactly who these new AI engineers really are. And honestly, knowing the difference here is absolutely critical. Whether you're building a tech team, just trying to understand the apps you use every single day, or maybe planning your very next career move. So are they just data scientists in disguise, or are we looking at an entirely new breed of technologist? To figure that out, we're going to break this rivalry down into 5 quick areas. The new tech rivalry, storytellers versus system builders, the oil they use, traditional versus foundation models, and finally, differing development processes. All right, let's start with section 1, the new tech rivalry and how generative AI completely changed the game. So what was the inciting incident for this massive workforce shift? Well, it was the sheer groundbreaking power of generative AI. Now, traditionally, data scientists have always used AI models to do their analysis. But generative AI, it pushed the boundaries of what's possible so far that it naturally birthed this entirely new, distinct role. The breakthroughs were so profound, AI engineering literally had to split off into its own dedicated field. Moving to section 2, storytellers versus system builders. Here, we're contrasting their fundamental objectives. If we look at these roles as a kind of metaphorical journey, at a super high level, you can think of the data scientist as a data storyteller. They take massive amounts of messy, real-world data and translate it into insights. It's kind of like an author trying to predict an unwritten ending based on clues. On the flip side, the AI engineer acts as an AI system builder. They are the architects. They actively use foundation models to build generative systems that fundamentally transform business processes. To tell these stories, data scientists rely heavily on descriptive analytics. A core tool here is exploratory data analysis, or EDA. Basically, this involves graphing data and performing statistical inference to understand the past. They also use clustering to group similar data points, like customer segments, for example. And they rely on machine learning models like regression or classification to predict numeric values or categorical successes and failures. By contrast, if you put on your AI engineering hard hat, the objectives shift entirely. AI engineers focus heavily on prescriptive use cases. We're talking decision optimization and recommendation engines that literally tell a business the absolute best course of action. And, of course, they work on generative use cases. This means building intelligent assistants, conversational search chatbots, and systems designed for complex text summarization. Okay, round 3. The oil they use. Let's look at the raw materials powering these roles. You know the saying, right? Data is the new oil. Well, it is, but these two craftsmen don't refine the same type of oil. For a data scientist, the oil of choice is typically structured tabular data. Think rows and columns. These tables require meticulous cleaning, removing outliers, filtering, joining sets, the whole shebang. But for the AI engineer, they refine messy, unstructured data. We are talking about vast, chaotic oceans of text, images, videos, and audio files. To really grasp the dramatic jump in scale we're talking about here, just consider this number: trillions. The large language models used by AI engineers require anywhere between billions to trillions of tokens of text to train on. That is just a massively larger scale compared to the traditional machine learning models our data scientists are using. Which brings us to section 4. Traditional versus foundation models. Let's compare the underlying engines. Notice the crazy juxtaposition of extremes in their toolboxes here. The data science toolbox is crowded. It consists of hundreds of different narrow models, each requiring a different data set and a relatively short training time, literally seconds to hours. But look over at the Gen AI toolbox. It's way less cluttered. It relies on essentially one type of model, but it is massive. We're talking billions of parameters, demanding hundreds to thousands of GPUs, and taking weeks to months to train. And the reason the Gen AI toolbox is so uncluttered is because of these foundation models. They are truly revolutionary because they're incredibly wide in scope. A single type of massive model can generalize to a wide range of tasks without having to be retrained at all. It's pretty amazing to think that this completely replaces the need for AI engineers to build hundreds of separate, narrow algorithms from scratch.
Finally, Section 5, Differing Development Processes. Let's map out the daily, step-by-step workflow.
So the traditional data scientist executes a meticulous, highly iterative loop. They start by identifying a use case, and then they pick and heavily prepare the right data. Step 3 is intense. They train and validate the model using techniques like feature engineering and hyperparameter tuning. And finally, they deploy that model at some endpoint in the cloud for real-time prediction and inference. Conversely, watch how the AI engineer's workflow totally shifts. They still start with identifying a use case, sure, but then, thanks to AI democratization making models widely accessible on platforms like Hugging Face, they skipped directly past the traditional training phase. No way around it. That's a total game changer. They jumped straight into working with a highly powerful, out-of-the-box, pre-trained foundation model. So you might be wondering, if they aren't training from scratch, how do they actually get the model to do what they want? Well, they achieve this through prompt engineering. This is basically interacting with foundation models using natural language instructions. AI engineers chain these prompts together, or they use techniques like retrieval augmented generation, which we call RAG, to ground the model's answers in objective truth, before ultimately embedding the whole thing into a larger system. Now, while we've stacked them head-to-head today to make the distinctions crystal clear, if you are working in this space, remember there is absolute overlap here. Data scientists will still occasionally work on prescriptive use cases, and AI engineers absolutely still use structured data at times. More importantly, both of these fields are evolving at a blazing fast pace. We're seeing new research, new models, and new tools dropping literally every single day. Ultimately, the boundaries of what is possible in tech are expanding all the time. Whether you're leaning towards the storytelling analytics of a data scientist or the system-building architecture of an AI engineer, the landscape is wide open right now. Which leaves us with one incredibly exciting question to close out on. With data, AI, and a creative mind at your disposal, what tools will you use to build the future?